So, my friends, today some old ghosts are back to visit us. Ghosts that I thought that since the 90s, early aughts, that we had gotten rid of these ghosts. But no, they're back. They're back, better, brighter, shinier than ever. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about the coups and civil wars in Africa. They're back. And the latest ghost to come back is the one of Niger. President Bazoum has been deposited by the military coup leaders just on the tail end of Burkina Faso, which was the latest one to have done a coup. Before that, Mali, and then of course we have Guinea. And so they're back. They're back. Just as if we could not come up with anything better to make our, countries better. So in any case, this is very worrisome. This is very worrisome. What is even more heartbreaking for me is the how much so many of the African youths are celebrating this type of move. And I think I understand where it's coming from. I think it's coming from this profound need, desire to want something, to want a different outcome for their lives. And how could you blame them, right? In this case, Niger, one of the poorest countries in the world. I mean, what all of these countries have in common, and at the end of the day, Africa is the poorest region in the world. So I guess we all have this in common, especially sub-Saharan African nations, poverty. And but while this poverty is happening, it's injury, salt added to injury, that while we're going through this poverty from, the end of our, from the beginning, from the independences, this poverty has just been with us, just getting slightly better. And at the same time, looking and seeing that it seems like, not seeming, it is. We have all of these natural resources that are worth a lot of money, basically just leaving our countries like this, with not much left for the rest of us to see, right? In terms of where is it all going? Where are the proceeds of these natural resources that we are basically sending out to the rest of the world? And yet, in the meantime, we're staying so desperately poor. So I do understand, at the end of the day, it's Einstein who said that the definition of craziness is to basically keep doing the same old thing in hopes of a different outcome. So I guess, the math that our youth is doing here is basically, look, we elect these people, they come in power, and yet we stay poor. In the meanwhile, it seems like we're just basically donating our natural resources to Western powers. In this case, primarily France is the one, that people are pointing at. So they're like, well, if that's not working, then we're going to try something else. And then it seems like the default something else has been these coups so far, and sometimes maybe some civil wars that we get involved in. And so that's one thing that's happening this week, as well as then facing off with these coup leaders of these nations that decided, hey, we're just going to go and try to do something different here. You have facing off with them the presidents of the still sitting presidents of the rest of the ECOWAS nations saying, if you do not put the president back in place, then we are going to come and make you do that. And the way we're going to do that is through military clash. We're going to come, we're going to invade, and it's just going to be war. And then people like me are saying, are we out of our minds? Are we all out of our minds? Beyond the simple point of Africans fighting Africans. Already, I'm this type of person who doesn't like to see any human being fighting any human being, no matter who they are, because I very much come from this long tradition of non-violence, of principled non-violence activism, as well as way to solve problems. I simply don't think that things don't get solved with violence. I just don't. It's just not something that I believe in. It's not part of my MO. It's not, and I'm a very passionate person, so you might think that, oh, this woman is into violence. No, I'm not. I think that everything happens in peace. And in Senegal, we say, it means it is in peace that everything is possible. And I very much believe that. In this case, that's what these people want to do. They want to go to war. They want to, ECOWAS wants to go to war with Niger. And Burkina Faso, as well as Mali, they said, the people who have done coups there said, if you go to Niger, then you might as well imagine that you declared war on us as well, and we're going to go and defend our Nigerian brothers, or Nigerian brothers. This is really scary. This is really dangerous. This is a situation that none of us should want, whether you're African or non-African. This doesn't bode well for anyone, especially the outside forces that are involved. On one side, we know that maybe the Russians, and who knows, maybe the CCP might want to, side with one side, while on the other end, you might have the US as well as Europe, primarily France, being, siding with the other side, in this case, ECOWAS. When are we ever going to learn? When are we ever going to learn? That's what I want to know. This is not good. Niger is a huge country, huge size. And all of these ECOWAS nations that want to go and face off with it, none of them has their house in order. And then you want to go and get involved in a mess that you don't even measure the magnitude of in the first place. Then you go there, you're going to get completely stuck in the mud. Meanwhile, all types of forces will use this to invade back your nations. I mean, we're fighting with all types of forces, anywhere from the Islamic, the Islamist, to the, whether it's Wagner Group, who knows what are the other hidden groups. I mean, and you have secessionists everywhere in a lot of these countries. This chaos is scary. That's an understatement. So, coups. ECOWAS saying we're going to go to have this intervention, which we all know could and will probably end in a horrific war. Those two together, do you know what they're doing? Besides what they're doing on the ground? Well, here we are, reinforcing all the negative stereotypes that the world has of Africa and Africans. I mean, just when we were starting to kind of look up a little bit. And someone like me, I am embarrassed. I am embarrassed to no end. And I am, quite frankly, sad and very tired of always having to defend us. Do you know what I had to defend us against? You guys are not succeeding because you're a bunch of idiots. You're a bunch of idiots. Your IQ is so low. You guys are not succeeding because you're just savages, always fighting each other. Do you think this is going to make them look at something else? And then you can come and say, oh, well, why are they saying us? Because, Ukraine and Russia are fighting. Everybody fights. Yeah, everybody fights. But, us, it just seems like it's that's all the world seems to hear of us. So whenever we get involved in anything like that again, it just goes for stereotype reinforcements. Whether it's justified or not, it's just beside the point. The fact is, it is. Something called stereotype reinforcement is very real. Already we have tons of negative stereotypes that run against this black skin of ours, and these type of behaviors and undertaking just make it worse. I have to defend us with, I always have to defend us with all types of things. So I'm not going to even go into the details here, but at the end of the day, the problem here is, on top of all the other problems, we are reinforcing these negative stereotypes that the rest of the world has of us Africans, Black Africans, as crazy, savage people of low IQ who are just always fighting each other. My biggest problem is the fact that we have these large cohorts of young people, African people, with no hope and no opportunity. It is so easy to mobilize people, especially with young people who have no hope and no opportunity. It's so easy to monopolize them for violence. And I feel like right now that's what everyone is doing. Everyone is using our young people's despair, anger, resentment. And by the way, I can't blame our young people for the way they feel. I just can't. I harbor the same feelings. It makes me mad to my core to see how the wasted potential, the unnecessary suffering imposed by our poverty, unjust feeling we have of having to, on top of this poverty of ours, watch very valuable resources being sucked, extracted out of our ground, and say, bye-bye, sayonara, people. I know how we feel. Because you see, my manufacturing facility is in Meke, in Senegal. And there, Meke has a particularity of, we have this train station, these train tracks that go through the town. And by the way, the train tracks are so inside the town that almost all the homes in the town have cracks in them. And then you wonder, who in their right mind allowed for tracks to be so close to the town? You know, we made it easy for them. And do you know what the only train that uses this track is used for? It's a train that is taking our phosphate out of Senegal. That train runs at least twice a day on a normal time. And it is taking our phosphate and it's taking it straight to port. And from there, it leaves the rest of the world. While us Senegalese are also in the boat of those who went to Ukraine to beg for cereals. And I have to tell you that every day, every morning, that freaking train wakes me up in the morning, because it always does that. Because it comes like blaring sounds, crazy in your like ears. Every morning, it wakes me up at the wee hours of the morning. And I feel the walls shaking. We just recently had to spend thousands of dollars repairing our manufacturing facility because our walls too were starting to have some cracks due to the freaking train. All of these inconveniences. Yet we see nothing. Nothing. I said phosphate earlier, but it's not the phosphate. It's the zircon. Zircon. But we also have phosphate leaving on our country in the same way. And we also have a gold leaving in the same way. The gold primarily coming from Kédougou, one of the poorest, most sadly poorest parts of Senegal, where the gold that comes out of that place is worth more than the whole national budget of Senegal. Sit with that for a minute. So I understand how our people feel, especially our young people. When I'm home and I have to see it, you see, when I'm away, when I'm on the US side or somewhere else and it's not under my eyes, my mind can forget a little bit. And it has some peace a little bit. When I'm home, it's every day that I walk around with this anger, with this resentment of having so much in the ground, above the ground, in our people, yet having nothing. It's a form of adding insult to injury that I think no one can explain unless you're going through it. And our young people go through it every single day, especially the ones who are on the ground every single day. So I got you. I got you. I got you. I got you. I got how you feel. And I got the despair. And I got the hopes. If only we kick all of these people who are allowing this to happen, then maybe something different will happen. But I can't follow you there. I cannot follow you in that reasoning because that reasoning is flawed. If anything, we should know that reasoning, by now, it's not just reasoning. Others have fought the same way. Others have fought the same way and fought the same way. So they thought something new needs to happen, and they fought the system with coups and with civil wars. For anybody who looks at history, it is everywhere there for you to see that it just does not work. Senegal with Botswana are the only two nations in Africa that never had a coup and never had a civil war. Only two nations. So it means all of these other nations have tried it before. And look at where most of Africa is today. And look at how all of those ended. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. So, I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it that we want and that we deserve change. I get it that we want and we deserve to finally stand free and prosperous and thriving and flourishing. But I just don't believe that the coups, like what happened with the Arab Spring, because there too, the people believed that the Arab Spring would liberate them and bring them what they wanted, which for everybody I think is, seems to be people want to be free, people want to prosper, and people want to have lives. But just like the Arab Spring did not bring it to that part of the world, these coups will not bring it to us either. This narrative, according to which we have corrupt leaders selling our resources to the West for almost nothing, so therefore come liberate us and everything will be okay, that's a bigly problematic narrative. And the sooner we get rid of that narrative, the faster we'll get to where we need to get to. Is it true that we have corrupt leaders? That's a joke question. Yes, it's true. Is it true that there is exploitation? That's another joke question. Yes, it's true. And yet, I don't believe coups are going to get us to where we all want to get to, which is prosperity, flourishing, and feeling free and sovereign on our own nations. Now, what's going to get us there? That's what I've been saying. I've been saying this for the past 15 years, and I feel by now as a broken record. But the more time goes by and the more I think and know that I need to go on mega, speakers and just for more people to try to hear this, because it's taken me some time to kind of connect those dots. But once I did, I never went back because it just makes so much sense. The whole thing is so obvious that it actually gets lost. It gets lost because it's so obvious. You take it for granted. Prosperity comes from economic freedom, meaning who builds prosperity? The entrepreneurs. And when I say entrepreneurs, what is it about entrepreneurs? What is it? What am I talking about? I'm just talking about person A, the entrepreneur, starts a business, the enterprise. That business is going to need people to work there, the employees. And they take a salary home, which makes, they then use to cater to their needs. That's the biggest category of people among us in the world. It's the very small percentage of people who are entrepreneur. And then you have everyone else is getting to have some type of economic activity going around that. So anyway, the entrepreneur start a business, an enterprise. That business going to have some employees working there. That business is going to have some other businesses supplying its needs. Maybe some consultants working for them. Maybe doing some social media, management, social media community management. This business is also going to have customers that need and want their services and or their goods. This business is going to have a community in which it's established, and usually, hopefully trying to establish some, some perks for, just being part of this community. So these are all the things that exist around the entrepreneur. And all of that is what we call the economic activity. And you can see that the more entrepreneurs you have, the more people with a job, in this case, the employees that you're going to have more other little businesses being built because, they're going to be the suppliers to these other businesses. They supply to each other. And you're going to have more and more people having goods and services that they need at better prices, better quality, that whole stuff. That's what it is all about. So that's how prosperity building comes about. So that's how the whole thing works. That's when you have a thriving economy where everybody is involved in some type of activity that's bringing them also income so that they can take care of their family's needs, their own needs. We don't need the government, to provide us for much because our economic activity is providing us with money that we need to go do what we need to do, and so on and so forth. So if these entrepreneurs are the driving force of such an ecosystem, then don't you think we should make it easy for those entrepreneurs to not only give birth to their companies, but also raise their companies? I think we should. Except that when you look in that direction, it turns out that except for 4 nations in all of this continent, except for 4 of them, everyone else is on the bottom half of economic indexes, looking at how easy or hard it is to start and run a business. Remember, give birth to your business and raise your business. How easy or hard it is to start and run a business in any nation. Yes, we have economic indexes that rank that because it's very important. If you want for more businesses to be born and to be grown, you need to have, it's just like anything. For anything that you need to be born and to thrive, you have to have a right environment. You have to have the most favorable environment to that. Otherwise, it doesn't. You cannot plant a tomato seed into a rocky soil with no nutrients in there and expect to have the most beautiful, juicy tomatoes. It just doesn't work that way. But if the same seed of tomato, you take it and put it exactly in the soil that it needs, a soil that's optimized for it to sprout and then grow and then flourish and blossom, then you have the biggest, nicest, juiciest tomatoes in the whole world. And when it comes to entrepreneurship, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. You cannot provide it the most desertic, environment and expect for things to flourish. It just doesn't work like that. And so what we're finding is African entrepreneurs have the worst business environments in the world, except for 4 of them. And then you want me to go on with the theory that the change that we need to do is maybe a coup, or who knows what type of civil wars, or like some type of violent, disruptive stuff like that we know does not work. You want me to give credit to that when already it has proven itself time after time after time to fail. When on top of that, meanwhile, insofar as prosperity is what we want, and the respect and dignity that normally comes from being a prosperous nation, if that's what we want, that doesn't come from coups. That comes from setting up the right business environment. You see, if we had told me that African nations had the best business environments in the world, yet they're still poor, maybe, and I'm not saying I would agree, but I'm saying maybe I might have listened to this idea of, oh, let's go burn it all down. Let's start everything over and it's going to happen. But the sad truth is, it's not. Entrepreneurs build prosperity. For them to do so, though, they need a healthy and sane and friendly business environment, world-class business environment. Yet, they don't have it in most African nations. And then you wonder why we're poor. That's why. So maybe, can we start to look there? Can we start to act on that? And then I have people coming out of the woods and be like, lady, you're crazy. You're out of your mind. You know, they will never let us be prosperous. And then I'm like, who's they? I know who we're talking about, but I need to make them say it. Who's they? Tell me who you're so scared of. Tell me who you, big man or big women with big pants on, is so scared of. Oh, you know, the West. In this case, often they'll say, France, as if we Africans are the reason why the French don't find sleep at night. Or the Americans don't find sleep at night. Flash news for you. They don't care about us. They only talk about us when, like now, when we're fighting each other, when we're doing coups in our nations. That's when they talk about us. And then the next things they say, you don't want to hear because it's rather ugly. And other than that, they don't think of us. They don't. We're not in their news. Most of our news are obviously what's happening in the nations, but also everything else that's happening everywhere else in the West. Here, they don't talk about us, except, like I said, when it's about to say some nasty stuff because some nasty thing is happening. They don't think of us. They don't. We just don't occupy, their minds. For most of them, where's Africa? Cite one nation on the continent. Oh, you mean Africa is not a country? Do you want to go to Africa? Oh heck no! I don't want to catch diseases. I don't want to have Ebola. I don't want. Some people even think that some of us are still cannibals. And us, we're there and saying, yeah, they're never gonna let us succeed. Yeah, because they know that if we succeed, they go down. Like this idea of living in a zero-sum world. If I win, it must mean you lose. That's a pretty pathetic way to look at the world. People who do zero-sum game never thrive as well as those who do win, win, and win. Have we tried to do win, 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 and win? Which is, by the way, easier to do when you let your entrepreneurs go to work. So, here I'm telling them about something that clearly it looks like there's a causation effect. You put economic freedom, you become a wealthy nation. But we're not putting economic freedom, yet we complain that we're still poor and have the nerves even to say that it has nothing to do with lack of economic freedom, but it has everything to do with being victims of the West. As long as we remain poor as we are, it is so easy to take advantage of us. And that's what you're seeing. We're being taken advantage of. And then they're like, yeah, every time somebody tried, they got killed. Show me somebody, one African leader that has tried. And when I call tried in this case, because that's what I'm talking about, don't take me to your terrain. Show me one African leader that has tried to make his or her country the country with a top world-class business environment and got killed for it. Tell me, I am waiting. I'm waiting. Go on, think. The Sankara you're going to talk to me about? The Lumumbas you're going to talk to me about? They didn't go for stuff like that. If anything, they were Marxist socialist people. People who would never put in place world-class business environment. People who were not free market. People who were not free enterprise. They were not killed or taken out because they went on. Not say even I want to. Forget even the doing it part. They didn't even think about that's what I'm going to do and even be killed because that's what they thought of doing. So not only did they think it, they also didn't do it, obviously. Meanwhile, you have people like Sir Tikama over in Botswana, who right when they got their independence, left Britain as a lawyer and went back down home and had this clever idea of mixing the very best of British common law with his traditional Botswanan heritage and tradition. Made a very interesting mix of it and was rather a free market type person. And Botswana, as we know it, is an upper middle income nation. And I argue that Botswana actually would be a rich nation today if they had managed to go beyond the good work they already did and actually went on to put in place a business class environment that would be as world class, if not better, than the one of Singapore or Hong Kong. You see? Has anybody done a coup on that guy? No. Nope. Is this country full of resources? You betcha. All the diamonds and everything. Now you can come and cry that De Beers is taking half of it. Who knows what else? But bottom line is, he found a way to put the diamond, proceed to good use for his nation, while also having the right type of business environment for their local entrepreneurs. And so they went. Today, in Rwanda, Kagame is going after the same reforms so that he's offering his entrepreneurs a world-class business environment as well. Last time I checked, I don't know what they're trying behind the scene. I don't know if they're trying anything, but he's still standing. Who has taken him out? He's still standing. In the meantime, his country is continuing to rise, economically speaking. Zambia. Zambia is the latest to have gotten their act together in terms of economic freedom and putting in place the reforms and really paying attention to the business environment of their nation. There's a lot of issues. They're coming from very, very far away, but they're going in the right direction. And I wouldn't be surprised that 20 some years from now, if Zambia keeps on this trajectory of continuing the reforms and making sure that they're focusing on the doing business index, on their doing business environment, that they too are going to get there just like Singapore got there before. And Mauritius, you all know about Mauritius. Actually, it seems to be that this direction, meaning focus on the doing business environment so you can unleash your entrepreneurs to go do what it is that they do best, which is build prosperity, create the jobs and the thriving economy that our nations need to become these respected nations in the world where we become co-creators in innovation and prosperity. It seems like that route is actually the peaceful route. And for those of us who are saying, yes, the currency, we don't even own a currency, the franc CFA zone. That is true. As much as possible, I am currency sovereignty, for sure. Now, someone like me is also going to tell you that with any government of the world, whether it's the US government, the French government, any government of the world, I don't trust any government of the world with a currency because they play with the currency. So yes, we have an issue with the fiat currency, whether it's one that's backed by the euro or one that's connected to the euro like ours is, and where we have to keep some wild percentage of reserves back in France. We don't even print our own currency. And then people are like, did you know all of that? Yes, I know all of that. And I've been speaking about all of this. Yes. Except that my solution is not like yours. My solution is not, let us set up a coup so that the coup people are going to go and tell the French, no, we're not going to do your currency anymore. We're not going to do this anymore. No. And in the meantime, disrupt your entire country. And who suffers the most, by the way, in these situations? Your people who are already, haven't suffered enough already? And then when you do these coups, who suffers the most? It's them. When people put embargoes and do this and do that, it's the everyday people of your country that are suffering. No one else. But you really want to argue back with the franc CFA? We have brand new tools, guys. These coups are so 90s. We have brand new tools that allow us to do this in a peaceful way. Let us all leave the currencies that are backed and controlled by governments. This is where I'm going to take you to something called Bitcoin. But that will be for another day. But all you need to know for now is that the people of the world, and we are among them, don't always seem to have their incentive aligned with the governments of the world. So that's why I'm always very careful to speak about the people of versus the government of. So we should all want currencies that are sound and free from manipulation from the central bankers. In that, we all have the same problem. Don't think Americans don't have similar issues to yours. Of course, it's easier right now for Americans to be, having the dollars, and it's a very complicated situation. But my bottom line is here. We don't realize it, but the people of the world have the same fight, whether it's the Senegalese or the Gabonese or anyone else who is under the franc CFA, group, or the people in France, or the people in America, or the people in Canada. Like I said, when the Canadian truckers went for a protest against some of the measures taken during COVID time, they were obviously at odds with the Canadian government, and they went on a protest and they set up a GoFundMe. It was a fundraising campaign, and people were donating from everywhere to support them in their efforts, so that they could buy gas, they could buy food, and continue their protest, and hopefully, change their government to kind of hear them finally, and maybe do something different about the lockdowns. You know what the government did? They basically used their power to have GoFundMe close that fundraising campaign in the hopes to dry out the Canadian protest. So you see, the way currencies work in the world today, fiat currency as we call them, meaning currencies that are controlled by governments, we're starting to see the problems with them. Maybe not for the same reasons, whether you're in a franc CFA zone or whether in the US, but at the end of the day, we all have the same problems. And so this is a reason why, in a way, a tool, a currency like Bitcoin, because currency is just a tool, was created. And I would really challenge us to think with our times, because coups is so 90s. Think with our times. And let's think smart. We don't have to go and destroy our nations on our so-called path to making them better. At least I know that's not a trade-off I would want for my nation. Especially when we could get what we want without spilling one drop of blood or inconveniencing one little old lady who has had enough hardships in her life. Thank you very much. We gotta think better. We gotta think smarter, most importantly, and think with the tools of our times. We are in 2023. There are other ways to say no to the franc CFA than to disrupt our entire ecosystem through coups, so that then it kind of gives us the so-called supposedly opportunity to finally say no. There are smarter, better, more, sorry, I don't want your franc CFA anymore. And you know what? I'm going to Bitcoin. Because for anybody who understands Bitcoin very well for what it is, and I think, and I would like to challenge us Africans to continue doing with Bitcoin what is what we've been doing. We are the ones who actually understand Bitcoin even more than the Westerners. Because they think Bitcoin is just some speculative asset. Every African who has been suffering, moving money from point A to point B, so far is now starting to adopt Bitcoin. So we are using it for the tool that was always created to be, and not the speculative asset that the Western world is looking at it to be. This is a crucial differentiation. And the reason why, once again, we're able to leapfrog ahead of how we use things compared to the West is because our needs are so raw. They're so raw. We don't have we're not spoiled like the West is when it comes to being able to pay and be paid for our money to go pay someone or for somebody's money to come pay us for something. When most of us don't have bank accounts because of I won't even go into the details today, but all of that. So even when it comes to this currency, but so many of us has been like, yeah, but God, you're so crazy. As long as we have to depend on this safer, we're never going to make it. So you see, even when it comes to the currency, there's another way to get what we want without spilling blood, without all the disruption, the heavy disruption that it causes to a nation and to people. There are ways. So I challenge us to think that way. What would start to happen if we were focusing all of our energy on making sure that our nations were the ones with the best world-class business environments in the world, and at the same time, we would use a currency that is not under the control of any nation, but it is one that is pure math, which means no one can mess with it, which means no one can alter it, which means no one can control it, which means you, the people, the person, controls it. Each one of us, one by one. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, ask me to do another video on this or to put a library of material for you guys to better understand this. But I think it's really important. It's really important. So imagine if we focused on things like that. So I have maybe a challenge that I would like to pose to the people who have already put a coup in their country. You did the coup. Now what? You promised your people that you would get them to higher grounds, to safer grounds, to better pastures, to greener pastures. Now what? To you, as well as to the other, legally, duly elected leaders of these other African nations, to all of you, as a matter of fact, I would like to put a challenge to. Let us be radical. And the best coup, and here I'm not saying it military coup, meaning the best achievement here, dazzling would be one, maybe, how about we challenge ourselves to think of creating startup cities? Cities that have particularity, the fact that they offer a world-class business environment within that zone. And why not? Maybe you have Bitcoin as your new currency. Can we start to think about stuff like that rather than out with one massa, in with a new massa? We don't want massas anymore. I don't want a massa anymore. I don't care. I don't want a massa anymore. It's 2023. And even if it was in 1600, if I was among that, I would have said, I don't want a massa. Is this very much the best we can hope for? France out. Russia in. I thought we were like proud people, man. I mean, really? We're always gonna be under somebody's tutoring, Massa, yeah, but French Massa, he was doing this to us, and you're gonna be much better with us, right? Right? You're gonna be much better with us, right? Let us not be that. Let us not be that. let it not be that. Can we shift our conversation? Can we shift our thinking? Can we look up and look onward and upward? And can we really think and put on the table all of our possibilities? Because there are so many of them. They're so cutting edge. They're so potent and put together in a very interesting way. We can totally leapfrog our way from where we are today, guys, to a brand new world, to a brand new, bright future. Completely brand new future, and a bright future at it. And it's going to take only a few decades. Everyone alive today, all these young people alive today, when you know that the average age on the continent is 19. Surely, if I tell you that this, within a couple short decades, you can start to see the change. Even within 15 years, you can start to see the change. And for the full vision of it to be manifested, you're talking about less than 50 years, 50. Everyone who is 19 today, unless something or an accident happens to them, will see the Africa that we have all dreamed of seeing. A prosperous Africa, with Africans recognized as global co-creators of innovation and prosperity. Africans, Black people, respected around the world. It's not just a dream, guys. It's right there. That world, that reality is right there. And we can start it right now. To do what we're talking about, we don't need anyone's approval or disapproval. And most importantly, we do not need to destroy whatever little left of harmony that we have. We build from here. So whether you've taken the coup route or we're still in the democratically elected, president route, it is still time for every single one of these situations and people in power to do the right thing. And all we need is for one of you to see that possibility, understand it, and reach out. If you don't know how to go about it, reach out. I'm actually working with some. And let's get to work. Let's go do beautiful work. Let's go do such clean work. The type of work where everyone will see it. They will see their own advantage in it. Where everyone will see themselves in it. In the progresses that we're going to make. So enough with the time wasted. Enough with the potential of our young people being wasted. It's never too late. Today is always the best time to get started. So everyone who wants to know more about all of this, let me know. And we've got so much work to do. Such wonderful, exciting, really cool work to do. I'll leave you with that for today. Thank you.